Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Okay, Dave, that's it. Screw you and your college flunkies. I've had enough of this from you and from everyone else. I know what you guys are trying to do. Break me down, drive me out of the force. Well, it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a lame prank like this to get Curtis Mooney to throw in his badge, so fuck you. Over.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Strege, and here I have another review for you of two different films directed by the same man. When I heard that, in the underground back in 2013, when a filmmaker, a very young filmmaker, was actually making movies with Dark Shadows actors, I was ecstatic. I've been an avid fan of Dark Shadows for many years myself. And it turns out that this young man ended up messaging the actor Jerry Lacey somehow, and ultimately it rewarded him in a meeting like years later, or a year later at least, and he ended up working with his because Ansel Faraj, Dark Shadows was one of his favorite shows. So to be able to work with some of the many actors and actresses that worked for Dan Curtis's Dark Shadows show, and create several movies out of content with them and involving them, would have been something that if I was a director, I would have wanted to do. So this first film in this collection here, because you can actually buy this from oldies.com. It's got two movies on it. Originally, this came, the first one came separately, but then he did the second one as well. And the first film stars Jerry Lacey, Catherine Leigh Scott, Lara Parker, and a ton of other people. So the first film is called Doctor Mabuse, and we get Jerry Lacey showing up, and Mabuse was a character that came from a French guy in 1922 in a novel, which ultimately became three movies by director Fritz Lang, who was a German expressionist person. And Mabuse, and the object of Mabuse was to get across some political messages for its time period. But this is a revamping of the character in here. So We have the character of Doctor Mabuse who can hypnotize people, and he never does any crime his own self. And there's a world in which we're in a small town, and I think it's absolutely amazing that Ansel Faraj can actually created this world in his garage. He created it in his garage with all with green screen, and most of the actors, all they really had to do was just stand around and look pretty, basically, and say their lines. Um, First of all, they had to look the period of the time. You know, fedoras, dresses. There were some mediums, and evidently there was a police chief that had actually, or uh, guy in charge of the police chief in this town, and Nathan Wilson is the actor who plays the guy. He's evidently a young police sergeant who ends up taking his place, older guy's place, and he ends up taking up the search for what has happened to Mabuse over the years, and Mabuse has returned. As and He's returned to because he and I guess I'm going to spoil it. He's returned to look for a successor, but this film is got a whole kind of mystery to it. It's kind of noir, and you don't necessarily get that a factor until a factor of the story until like the very end, and there are mysterious characters that have worked for Doctor Mabuse and whatnot. There are mediums, like I said, played by um, Catherine Leigh Scott and Lara Parker. I like the fact that Lang is the guy who's ahead, the head, ahead of the main character in here, and Madame von Bow, who was Fritz Lang's wife, um, and I like that he Ansel Faraj reused names in here. I was just excited when these films came out. I love this storyline. The acting was pretty awesome in here. I mean, there was some audio trouble, but I can relatively believe the world that he has transcribed in this first film. Um, at the end of the film, uh, the end of this first film is just awesome. I mean, you can't imagine, um, you know, a henchman being executed in that way. In any case.
Trask! 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 Who is it? Who's in this room? Your victims, Trask. Your innocent victims. The chained, the tortured, the miserable creatures condemned by you. You're a fraud, Trask. Who are you? Who are you? You will never live to see the hanging. I won't listen to this. I know who you are. You're the witch. You're trying to frighten me. The witch is doing this to me. You can't frighten me.
Now, in order to understand the sequel, um, which is Doctor Mabuse Epitomar, um, is you have to kind of go through the storyline of the first one. So, um, apparently, um, in the first one we have um, Doctor Mabuse, played by Lacey, Nathan Wilson, who ends up being a producer on the second film, and uh, basically a part-time producer through the some of the rest of Ansel Faraj's filmography. So, um, but he plays Inspector Carl Lohman, who evidently is the youngest man on the force, and he is taking over the uh, Inspector Norbert von Wenk's position, who has died. And when he died, he was actually, um, I believe that he was investigating the whereabouts of Doctor Mabuse and what his plans were intentionally. Madame von Harbo is played by Catherine Leigh Scott, and she has a sister by the name of Madame Garoza, played by Lara Parker. And it seems that these are a series of sisters that can see into the beyond. And by way of tarot cards, they predict the future and predict the present, and and so there's a lot of spiritualism going on here. Um, so what's happening is that Inspector Lohman goes through a series of characters, including a young woman that by the name of Christina Novello, played by Bahia Garrigan. Um, and she ultimately entices Lohman and also helps Dr. Mabuse, but also makes him think that she is actually helping him in some way, shape, or form, but he doesn't entirely believe it. It's unfortunate that Inspector Lohman is his mind is overtaken by um, Doctor Mabuse in the end, and that is pretty much the um, logistics of the story. Because in the second film, Epitomar, Doctor Mabuse had actually had plans to destroy the world and rebuild it so that he can rule it. Um, and be its leader, and he called his utopian paradise Epitomar. Um, the only thing is, the spiritualists, led by Madame von Burr, Harbaugh, von Harbaugh, um, she has led him to believe that there is a key that is able to either restart the world or control it all, in a matter of speaking. And I don't think that that was entirely the case. So ultimately, not only has Doctor Mabuse, he's very into machines, weaponry, but never exactly handling it all himself. So in the first film, um, he had a helper, a thief that helped him. Um, and in the second film, um, he had a scientist by the name of Rotwang, and he was a heck of a lot more evil, evil. But also in the second film, another character from the Dark Shadows series surfaces as Professor Conrads, who is in charge of the archive in the city, and he has somehow gotten a hold of the Epitomar doctrine, um, and this is Christopher Pennock, who played Jebediah in Dark Shadows. Um, and before going into this series of films, I had wondered if the actors and actresses had the same steel that they had while playing on Dark Shadows. And lo and behold, they all have that same steel that I saw on the show. So to me, them giving their all for this young man in the tiny little garage that he screened. I would have shit my pants if those people were like in my garage. I would literally be on my knees, being, "I'm not worthy! I'm not worthy! I'm not worthy!" you know. But in any case, uh, but yeah, I mean, the rest of this story is he evidently Doctor Mabuse is now in the body of Lomar, and so you see the face of Lomar back and forth in here, um, and the makeup that was done on Nathan Wilson to make him look like he's possessed, and that's the thing. The original Doctor Mabuse was able to hypnotize people just like this one, except he was able to hypnotize them by way of demonic possession, um, of a sort, and he would always make other people do his dirty deeds. So ultimately, Rotwang created these um, human machines they called automatrons that ultimately were to be their army of automatrons to help them out in the aid of crisis when it came down to going up against the people that would help in Doctor Mabuse's downfall. And when it was realized that the key that he'd been told about by Madame von Harbo and the like was not in existence. In fact, when he realized and tried to use the key after taking it from Miss Novello and killing supposedly his one true love from like way back when, um, this was the moment where he realized, I think, in a sense, that he was no longer going to be. But I like how how Ansel Faraj is able to leave us wondering exactly what the hell happened at the end of the film. I liked the green screen process that he showed us a world. And like um, and there is a new character in the second film too, who um, evidently da, 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 uh, so Lucy Ulrich is played by Kelsey Hewlett, and Kelsey Hewlett definitely plays the character of Lucy Ulrich to an extreme herself, where she plays someone who actually can see the dead, apparently, and she ultimately becomes a strong spiritualist in a sense because she actually is able to go into Mabuse's mind, and unfortunately, she gets destroyed while doing this, which ultimately leads to why her husband or boyfriend or whatever, Michael Ulrich, or brother, ultimately helps the professor and his band of people, evidently. Conrad's is not alone. He's got his daughter along who ultimately gets betrayed, but you know, there is a sense of mystery throughout the whole thing, and there's a profound message that once one with power has power, what does one do with it? And you know, revenge uh, 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 is not ultimately satisfied entirely. So I thought that the acting was done rather well on all involved. I'm glad that I was able to um, see the films, check the films out again. I'd originally written these up in my Movies Galore of Milwaukee, but I didn't entirely go into them in entire detail. And I loved this world that he created. I mean, I love the world that Fritz Lang created of Doctor Mabuse. Um, but I like that I could definitely see that Jerry Lacey had become the role of Doctor Mabuse, and I love how these Dark Shadows actors and actresses just came together to help and continue the love and support of a show fanatic who was turned into a director from a very young age, and um, I was just ecstatic to see them all on screen again. And these are some very strong roles here. I mean, I'm reminded of the soap opera ness of Dark Shadows, and I think that's what Ansel was going for. So thank you for listening. Ansel Faraj is with Hollingsworth Productions. You can find most of his films um, on oldies.com's site. You can definitely check out some of his other work on Amazon Prime. I believe Loon Lake just recently came out. Will and Liz, which is a more normal film. They're straight film that Nathan Wilson and Ansel Faraj are kind of behind, just to see if they can go in that direction. I'm guessing. So in any case, check those out and check some more of my other reviews out. I'll definitely have some more cool, fascinating shit for you coming out here. Just trying to catch up YouTube wise. So thanks for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. Appreciate your time spent here, and Thank you so much. I just enjoy talking my ear off and telling you about these films. I mean, there's nothing more that I want to do in life is talk and talk and talk about films. So thank you so much. Enjoy.
You were good, kid, real good. But as long as I'm around, you'll always be second best, see?